Yeah. Golden Girls, which was on for only 6 years, 7 years maybe. I think people think that show was on a lot longer than it was. I know I did. I thought it was on way longer than that. Some guy who was the casting director, the Golden Girls, said that B. Arthur and Rue McClanahan hated Betty White on the show.
Really?
Was Betty White popular in the cast of Golden Girls?
No, the women hated her. All right, one of the things is, I mean, literally, B. Arthur, who I cast in something else later on, just said, oh, she's a using that word. But
B. Arthur called Betty White a C word?
Yeah, she called her the C word. I mean, I heard that with my own ears. And by the way, so did Rue McClanahan. What she would do, for instance, was Estelle Getty she began to have increasing problems with memorizing lines. And she would write the lines on her hand. And if she went up, Betty White would make fun of her in front of the live audience. That may seem like a minor transgression, but it really does get to you. I don't have no idea how Estelle Getty felt, but I know the other two did not like her at all.
Wow.
So, listen, you don't have a career in showbiz as long as Betty White did without stepping on some toes, right? We all know her as like the kindly old lady, and I think she was probably in her mid-50s when Golden Girls was a big thing, but there's a podcast called The Originals, where it's a part of Los Angeles Magazine, and that was from about a year ago, I guess, just making the rounds now. Not everybody can be Joe Rogan. They hang on your every word. Other people do a podcast, and a year later, it starts getting some traction, but whatever. It's a crowded media landscape. What can we do? We're all trying to keep our head above water. But, there's a forthcoming book called Sex, Drugs, and Pilot Season, Confessions of a Casting Director. I bet that's a ripping read.
Hey, if it's
so he's got
like that.
Right, he's got to get out there and do this kind of stuff. B. Arthur and Rue McClanahan. Betty White got the last laugh because all three of the Golden Girls died before she did. She was the last one there.
And
she laughed.
And she was the most popular of all of them, too. Betty White was a bigger name than the rest of them.
But
not at the time.
I was going to say, when Golden Girls was on, I don't remember any of them. I remember Estelle Getty getting all of the attention because she was like the crusty mom.
B. Arthur
was known because she was on Maude and Rhoda and all those.
That's the one that I knew the most. I feel like Betty White passed them all, though, because her career kept going, and they weren't as... And I feel like it's because of more of her late in life stuff in the past 10, 15 years, just being so prolific.
And I think B. Arthur was primarily a stage actress. I mean, she'd been on a bunch of TV shows, but I think she probably went back to doing stage work. How you doing, everybody? I'm B. Arthur. But pretty wild, Everybody loves...
Dropping the C word on her, too. Not like she was difficult. Like, oh, no, she was an FC.
I mean, I'm assuming that C word did not mean contractually obligated to be on the show. But, Estelle Getty died in 2008. She had dementia. I think she might have been the first one to go. Because I think Rue McClanahan and B. Arthur, or the other three, died in pretty rapid succession. But, pretty wild.
Well, like you said, there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like you.
Yeah.
And,
I know.
Yeah, it's the ones that she's supposed to be friends with. But that shows how good of actors they all were, because we never sensed that on the set. Watching the show, we always thought they were best of friends.
Such good actors.
Yeah,
You'd
great,
think, they're going out and having Mai Tais after this. Nope. Now, this would not have been a shock. I guess Betty White mentioned this many years ago. She would do interviews, and she'd say that B. Arthur was not fond of me. She found me a pain in the neck because I always had a positive attitude. And that made B. Arthur mad sometimes. Now, B. Arthur, at first blush, did not look like a woman who always had a positive attitude. So maybe Betty White took it a little too far. I don't know.
I mean, it's a similar situation on this show where, I mean, I don't want to speak for Mary because she's not here, but almost on a weekly basis, she will say, "I hate you."
Yes.
To me.
Yes. Well, and again, you got to know what side your bread is buttered. I don't think it would surprise anyone to know that off the air, we all hate each other.
Yeah.
All of us.
We do?
Whoops. Was I not? Oh, gosh. Boy, is my face red. Bill, see me after the show, will you?
No, you hate me.
So, yeah, when Betty White was on The View, and again, they asked her about the Golden Girls, because that's, for a certain generation, that's all people knew her from. And she'd say, I don't know what I ever did to B. Arthur, but she was not thrilled with me. So there you go.
Yeah, people just have, you rub people the wrong way, especially if you're overly positive. It can be grating.
I looked up B. Arthur's estate, or not estate, but her house, and it's $15.99 million, so literally $16 million in Brentwood.
Why does she still have a house in Brentwood?
No, that's how I know that it was hers. She sold it.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
When she died, her
yeah.
estate sold it.
Yeah, no, she was like she had a bunch of Tony Awards on her shelf. She was primarily a stage actress. But Estelle Getty died in 2008, and then B. Arthur the next year, and then Rue McClanahan the next year. So Betty White really outlived all of them by quite a bit.
I wonder if they'll ever do any of those like live for a TV audience, because I know the ones that they've all done have been Norman Lear shows, but I'd like to see them do episodes of like Cheers or do an episode of Seinfeld. I think that'd be very fun.
So, I don't know if those shows are old enough, right? I mean, granted, Seinfeld was 30 years ago, but
I mean, Cheers is older than that.
Yeah, older than that.
Or do an episode of Golden Girls. What I think is probably more difficult for Seinfeld is they use a lot more locations than Cheers or even the ones that they did. Like those shows,
they were confined to one set.
They were confined to one set. So you could probably pull it off with Cheers because they were just, I can't think of a scene outside the bar.
Well, there was that Always Sunny episode where they were doing Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Charlie's Kramer. Yeah, B. Arthur. I mean, she was Maude was an All in the Family spinoff. And Maude was a big deal because it had an abortion episode. It's like in the early 70s.
Well, that was when it was a hot topic.
Big deal.
That's when Roe and Wade got into it.
And it will be again, by the way, if things go the way it looks like they're going to go.
Jeez.
You're going to have a very special abortion episode on whatever the hot shows are.
How I Met Your Father.
There you go.
What, that's hanging in the balance again?
Are you aware of what's happening in the... Not only does he not listen to this show... That's why I don't take it personally he doesn't listen to the show he's on, because he doesn't pay attention to anything.
He knows what's going on with Wendy Williams, though.
Well, right now, it's when
I assume he's kidding. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and assume
I was kidding, but like, I just don't know. Is this just going to be like Israel and Palestine? Like, this is just never going to end? It's always going to be up for... No matter how many laws are passed, no matter how many amendments we have to make, it's still going to be an issue?
What are we talking about?
Abortion.
Is abortion always going to be an issue? Yes.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's legal, it will always be an issue.
Until we become children of men type people where we can't
The Handmaid's
anymore.
Tale?
Yeah,
right.
Once it's impossible to... Everyone's sterile. Kind of takes care of itself.
Right. Or everyone could just be homosexual. And then we'll have to worry about it.
Well, that would imply that it's a choice, Poundcake.
Everyone can be homosexual if they want to.
if they really... Yeah. Now, some of you are going to really need to try harder than others, but it can be done.
Is that what you're going to run for? That's your political office? Like, listen, I will get rid of all abortion by making everyone be in homosexual relationships.
I think that's a South Park episode.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's...
Back to the pile!
Yeah.
And everyone's going to be like, you know what? He got a point. We can get rid of abortion right now.
That's kind of an old bit, too. I mean, it's been done 100 times. Why are anti-abortion people also anti-gay? Like, they should make natural allies. You think you'd be pro-homosexuals if you don't like abortion.
Get your ass in that pile and out of that clinic.
Back to the pile.
I'm just saying, if there was just...
Imagine, clinic into the pile.
If there was just a pile outside and they're like, listen, we're against abortion, most people would be like, you know what, I could get behind that. Not behind chat, but I can get behind that. Hop on the pile.
There's your slogan for when you run for office. I can get behind that. Mm-hmm. Cody Brown for Senate. If you're behind him, you'll know it. Well, good.
Instead of build that wall, hop in that pile.
Hop in the pile.
Once we become his trustees, once we become his conservators,
oh, it's gonna be so nice.
We're gonna be we're gonna have him out there running for public office.
As long as you guys are at the bottom of the pile.
Why do we have to be at the bottom of the pile?
You're not in charge.
We're
in charge of you.
Yeah.
No.
The person that's in the conservatorship does not get to run the pile.
But there will be a pile.
We're at the top of the pile.
But there's a pile, right? There will be a pile.
Yeah, it's gonna be the pile of the hundreds of dollars you have.
Hundreds.
Yeah. Why do we have to be at the bottom of the pile?
Because that's more degrading.
Why do you want to degrade us?
We're not friends off the show. We all hate each other.
Oh,
so
right. Forgot
that's
about
why.
that. Yeah. By the way, boy, the hits keep on coming. The more
what
Saget.
now?
Well, no, the more Saget info. You know, they announced a couple days ago that the coroner's report, autopsy, whatever, determined that he actually died of head trauma. The initial thought was, well, he was in bed. He must have fallen asleep and had a heart attack, blah, blah, blah. They described him as being tucked in and his hand on his chest. And then they said, well, no, he had head trauma. Now they say he had catastrophic injuries to his head. Because when we were talking about the other day, we were like, how many people have hit their head and not thought anything of it? Maybe gone to sleep. You know, you feel lucky if you woke up because you don't know how bad it could be. He was COVID positive when he died. And they say he had catastrophic injuries to his head. So you hate to think about what his last moments might have been like. Like maybe he was so disoriented that he lied down or didn't know.
Yeah.
Awful. That he had likely fallen backward and hit the back of his head. He had fractures to the back of his head and around his eyes. He hit something so hard in the back and the front.
That's what happened to Heather McDonald. She hit her head so hard that it gave her black eyes.
Man. He had posterior scalp abrasions and like a head hemorrhage. Blood that forms between the skull and the scalp. Skull fracture. Jesus, what happened to this poor guy?
I wonder if... Because remember when D.L. Hughley, he passed out on stage with COVID. It was...
But Saget didn't pass out on stage.
Right, but I'm saying there are people that because the disease, if you get COVID, it can really sap your energy and make you sore. And like there's these things. So I wonder if what happened was COVID hit him real hard and it knocked him out, like to the point where he fell down and, like you said, was disoriented. He's like, I just got to get in bed. And then that was it.
So they said that he didn't have any illegal drugs in his system, but he was on a prescription drug that treats seizures and anxiety.
Well, then that's another
They
thing.
also had an enlarged heart. He had...
yeah, we heard about that. Everybody said he was the nicest guy. No one had a bigger heart than Bob Saget.
Didn't have a bad word to say about
Literally
anybody.
and metaphorically.
Yeah. And he had like... he had like atherosclerosis, so his heart wasn't crazy healthy. And that they think that he fell backwards and something happened and he got into bed. But, just awful. All this.
What if we find out that somebody hit him in the head?
Oh. You mean somebody broke into Bob Saget's room? Or maybe someone he invited up to the room.
And they hit him with the old 1-2, back of the head.
But and this is what, as you say this, people are texting me this. You guys can't be that naive. This wasn't a fall. Come on, blah, blah, blah. It was a hit. Who's going to take out a hit on Bob Saget? Honestly, for what?
Lori Loughlin? She's the criminal.
Hey, she played herself.
Yeah, she is a convicted criminal. Who knows?
Could you imagine if Lori Loughlin is discovered to have killed Bob Saget? There would be no bigger story than that.
Wild.
Fatty Arbuckle. God bless.
No, I think there might.
You're never going to convince me that somebody killed Bob Saget.
Hit him in the head. Someone did something.
That's how Bob Crane died. You ever see Autofocus with Greg Kinnear? Bob Crane was the guy that played Hogan on Hogan's Heroes. and he died because he had gotten into some really weird stuff with like doing homemade pornos, and he fell in with the wrong people, and somebody bludgeoned him to death.
Really?
I think is how he died. Yeah. Greg Kinnear played him in this movie called Autofocus, and Willem Dafoe was like his buddy who was a real seedy character. That's a really good movie. But Bob Crane died under those circumstances a long time ago. He probably died when did he die? 78. Because he was into some kinky stuff. And so, of course, he dies and this all comes to light. So it's like he had kind of a nice guy image and blah, blah. And they're like, oh, this guy was into all kinds of weird crap. And
what kind of weird stuff, though? Like
he was
BDSM stuff?
Well, he was videotaping all of his sexual escapades, right, is how they put it. And somebody introduced him to this other dude who worked for Sony. And they start going to bars together. And because Bob Crane's a famous guy, he's introducing his friend. And so they're bringing a lot of these women back, but they don't know they're being videotaped.
Oh, that's real slimy. Real slimy stuff.
Yeah.
Ooh, Bob Crane. Hogan, come on. I know you had the radio hidden. I didn't know that you had cameras hidden for sex.
Yeah, so his manager shows up at his apartment because they were supposed to go to some meeting and he doesn't show up and he's dead in his apartment and he had clearly been bludgeoned with something.
So what a weird show that was.
Hogan's Heroes?
Yeah.
It was a comedy about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Somebody pitched a network. I want to do a satire of concentration camps. And they go, all right, sell me on it.
More on the prisoner of war camp, right? Like that's...
Yeah, well, you're right. Prisoner of war camp.
They weren't doing a lot of...
But they were Nazis.
Yeah, they were Nazis.
Yeah, they were prisoners of war. You're right.
And they were like making the Nazis like silly, like...
They were cuddly.
Colonel Klink. I mean, this goofball Nazi that keeps trying to...
I see nothing. Yeah. Colonel
what
Klink
a weird
and
show.
Schultz, Sergeant Schultz. Hogan, what do you want for Christmas? Yeah, it was very strange.
Like, what would be the
But people liked him. People liked him on that show, but then, like, after he left, he tried to do his own show. Nobody cared about that, so he was doing, like, dinner theater and crap like that.
It'd be like now if there was a show about...
9/11
or like 2000, like, the mid-2000s war, like someone that was... captured by Al Qaeda, and they're like, "All right, but we'll behead you tomorrow."
That's right.
And they keep pulling a fast one on them to keep pushing back the day. Like that would be insane to make that show.
Yeah,
and make it like not even a drama; it's a comedy. It's a sitcom about being a prisoner of war.
Hogan's Heroes.
That's how they coped with it. I think that's how a lot of people did. They're like, let's.
Ran for 6 seasons.
It went long. It was on longer than the
war. Yeah, it was. A Nazi German prisoner of war camp during World War II. That's right. Because that's where Richard Dawson was, too. Before Family Feud, Richard Dawson was the British guy on Hogan's Heroes.
Such a strange show.
Very strange. So they had a French guy, and they had a British guy, and they had a,
Have any of you ever gone over to like the...
Talk about campy. Mm-hmm. What?
Have either of you gone to Europe to see any of the like old concentration camps?
I have not done that. No, I
would really like to.
I wouldn't say it's on my bucket list, but
you need a good laugh.
No.
Where do they shoot Hogan's Heroes? It's one of those things where, I don't know.
You don't know if you could do it?
No, I know I could do it, but that's something that's so meaningful to people who had family that lived through that, Jewish families or just anybody who lived through that. And I don't have, to the best of my knowledge, my grandma's side of the family was German, but they might have been on the wrong side of the fence. So, well, you know what I mean? Like, if you're of German descent in your family, like, you got to be careful about how deep you dig.
Right.
My dad's side of this family's in the deep south. So if I do too much digging on either side of the families, I'm going to find something that's
my grandma,
pretty distasteful. But no, I've never been to Germany or any of those. They have them in Poland and,
Yeah. My grandma.
I haven't been to Eastern Europe.
My dad's side, my dad's mother she's got German ancestry, but they came over in the probably the 17 or 1800s. So
So you're saying
they were early
before
immigrants,
World War II.
A little bit before, yeah. Like it was an uncommon thing for people from Germany to make that trek that early on.
Right.
There weren't a lot of Germans coming to America. That's like, what's his face in Django? I guess he's Austrian, but you know.
Oh, Christoph Waltz, you mean?
Yeah.
I wish I could trace my father's side. I don't want to take one of those ancestry tests, but
Why not?
because I don't need cousins knocking on my door asking me for money and trying to be my
No,
conservator.
you'll know they're there. They won't know they're related to you. And they could do a test and find out they're related. Why would they knock on your door and ask you for money?
I don't know.
We will have it because we're your conservators.
Yeah, we'll
You
tell
can
them to
literally
scram.
you can literally say, I don't have any money. Bill and Alan are in charge of it.
Yeah.
It's the perfect
Hey,
excuse.
Can we get started with that tonight? And can you buy Alan and I dinner?
You know what? I already have dinner plans tonight, but we're going to figure something out really soon.
Okay.
I'm going to take a break here, and I'll come back and have a 4-pack of passes for you. You and 3 pals for All-Star Weekend next weekend, the NBA crossover sessions that they're doing all weekend long.